Hello everyone, I am your ghost with the most and your fabulous host Luke here, and Ninjago Dragons Rising Season 1 was a massive breath air after the complete dumpster fire that is Crystallize. It's not perfect, but it is a massive improvement. However, I have one big problem with the season, and that problem is the entirety of the last Djinn. The entire episode just feels like one massive blue balling for Skybound fans, and the entire episode is just a massive missed opportunity. Nia having literally no reaction to seeing another Djinn is super weird and makes no sense for her character. She doesn't even mention Skybound at all. The events of Skybound have literally never been mentioned in the show since Season 6. This was the perfect time to finally talk about it, but for whatever reason, the writers just decided not to, even though it was the perfect opportunity. The episode also makes wish magic even more confusing, and I didn't even think that was possible. This episode is one of the most disappointing things I think I have ever watched. As an episode, it's just okay, I guess, but it could have been so much more. I've heard people say that the writers must have not wanted characters to talk about Skybound because they didn't want to alienate new viewers, but that makes literally no sense. Who starts a show on season 16? Yes, I know, it's a new series, but it still continues the story of the previous series, and anybody who starts on Dragons Rising will probably be confused about some things. Dragons Rising really doesn't even explain who Jay is. Things like Nia having literally no reaction to seeing another Djinn, despite literally dying because of one, is just bad writing, and it's one of the most disappointing things in the show. Dragons Rising is a new show, yes, but it still follows the same characters, and everything that happened in the previous series happened in this series as well. They mention multiple previous seasons, so I just think it's really weird that Skybound is the exception, despite having the most perfect setup out of all of them. If anything, Dragons Rising is a sequel series to the original show, which would make Nia's lack of acknowledgement of Skybound even weirder. If Dragons Rising was a new thing entirely, which completely reset the timeline and has its own continuity, then that would be one thing, and that would be fine. But it's not that. Dragons Rising may not be season 16 or whatever, but it continues the original show's story, so that's how I'm going to look at it. I would say at the most, Dragons Rising is a soft reboot, but like I said, it has the same canon and same characters, so I will expect the story and characters to be consistent. Ninjago has never been perfect at this stuff, but it's always at least been decent, or it was until Crystallized. I've heard people say that they didn't mention Skybound because it would be really hard for them to explain Skybound, but it really wouldn't. All Nia would have to say is, "An evil genie got all of my friends to wish themselves away one time, and he tried to take over Ninjago, but me and Jay stopped him by complete accident." You see, that's really not that hard. It's not like she would go into every detail about what happened. I've actually heard people say that Skybound didn't have any consequences, which is why it wouldn't have been mentioned, but that is just laughably untrue. For one, it's the main reason Jay and Nia became a couple again. It also had some other consequences, like Yang's temple flying, but that was kind of forgotten about. But also, Narukon is still around, and we know he still remembers the events of Skybound, and they keep teasing his return, but they never bring him back for some reason, and it's really annoying. I'm sure new fans could start at Dragons Rising and get a pretty decent grip on the show, but I still don't understand why anyone in their right mind would start on Dragons Rising without watching the original show first. I agree that you can't force an explanation out of somebody when it comes to previous seasons. Like, it would be really weird if just unprompted Nia just started rambling about Skybound. Stuff like that has to come naturally, and that's my exact problem with The Last Djinn. Nia mentioning Skybound or her history with Djinns in that episode would have not been jarring at all. In fact, it's weird that she doesn't because it was perfect and it would have been completely natural. It was the perfect time for her to finally talk about Skybound, and they just didn't do that for some reason. That's my problem with the episode. Nia having no reaction to seeing another Djinn is just bad writing. Like, I don't want her to be racist to the guy, but she has no reaction, nothing. Just any reaction would have been preferable. Also, just because they have barely mentioned Skybound before doesn't mean they shouldn't mention it ever. I've heard people argue that, and that's just dumb. If anything, it means they should mention it more because there's potential there. Also, I just thought I would throw this in at the end of the video, but in the Dragons Rising Season 2 set, the Dragon Shrine, I think it's what it's called, the Teapot of Tyran appears. I'm pretty sure it's just an Easter egg, but I'm curious to see if it will appear in the season at all. Anyway, I have been your ghost with the most and your fabulous host, and thank you for watching.